to welcome Dr. Vicky. Vicky from EMS. So she's called Dr. Victoire Vicky Gafi Kondi Akara, as you can see it. So, and she's working at African Institute of Mathematical Sciences, Research and Innovation Center, AMS-RIC. And she's working as a resident researcher in climate change science. And also she's working at Gender and Inclusion Officer. And also she was in 2024 the African Climate Ambassador. So you can see she has a very wide CVs. So another one, let me call Professor Thompson Faraday Diagbonya. So Prof. Thompson, yes, please, you can sit. So Prof. Thompson is working in Department of Environmental Studies at University of Lay Adventist Kigali, UNILAC. And he's going to help us to understand more on this kind of climate research field. Another one is Miss Olivine Nyinaumuntu. She's in Indian Institute of Technology. Yes, welcome. And she's a fellow at the Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi. And also she's working at REG, Rwanda Energy Group, at Huye branch. So thank you also to come and share with us the things related to energy. So, and also we are going to hear from Bonane Nyechumi from University of Rwanda. She's, he's a master's student. I don't know if he's around. Another one is Idrissa Dukuzimana, also from University of Rwanda. But I can see they are going to present us online. So, but meanwhile, this is a panelist we are going to share with what they are doing currently. So personally, I am Didier Ntwari. I'm working at Rwanda Space Agency. I think in the morning we had, I didn't have opportunity to come in the morning, but I know that our Chief Technology Officer was here. He was representing Rwanda Space Agency. So I'm working at Rwanda Space Agency as Division Manager of Earth and Space Science Division. So, but you can see here we have different expertise. For me, I am just focusing on using satellite measurement and also the ground instrument to measure the greenhouse gases. So, but there are many tools to use when you want to measure and monitor the reduction of greenhouse gases. So the panelists, they are going to help us. What shall we do to monitor, to measure, and also to reduce the greenhouse gases as one of the climate action? So we are going to start. Of course, ladies first. Okay, Dr. Vicky. Her topic is about strengthening Rwanda MRV, a system in the energy, agriculture, and waste sectors advancing greenhouse gases measurement and reduction through actionable climate science. So you will have like, I think 15 minutes. Yes, 30 minutes, sorry. 30 minutes.
Yes, I think I have my slide there. And I think many people here already know me, and then you introduce me. So on behalf of AIMS and all my colleagues and students here, we just want to acknowledge the co-organizer of this symposium, allowing us to be part and also to share what we are basically doing. So why I choose to talk about the MRV system is basically due to the kind of collaboration that we have with REMA, working on the shortlist climate pollutant. I think people from REMA here, and then also the methane emission to be able to support in the and this is 3.0. But basically, this is not about that work, but it's about a tool, a mechanism that Rwanda is already like doing so good already. The MRV system is something that Rwanda is already has an MRV platform. But how specifically are we addressing this kind of measurement, reporting, and verification on this kind of specific sectors is something that I thought would have been very good to discuss about. So as we said, doing a presentation, bringing up the ideas for us to discuss as a team here. And I think this is something that also will be useful for REMA, and I think people from REMA can also contribute, as well as JZ also working on the MRV system that can also be able to contribute. So next slide, please. So the outline, as mentioned, basically is just to talk about Rwanda climate vision and commitment. What are the importance of the MRV systems for Rwanda framework, and then how can we make sure that these systems is like strengthened to be able to allow, as the DG this morning, I think we will be discussing this morning, how are we making sure that the commitment that we do, the data that we collect, the indicator that we develop in the climate commitment be able to be measured, verified, and report. So I think it's very important to put this up. And then what are the current the current overview of the MRV system, and also just to try to see how we can specifically link this to the agriculture, waste, and also energy sector. Those are basically like among the three sectors that are also like contributing a lot in the greenhouse gas emission, and some kind of recommendation at the end. Please, next slide. So basically, here is to share with you that Rwanda has made is clear, in terms of ambition to become one of the best, climate resilient country in terms of example. And then we have seen the whole world that Rwanda is like really doing so good. And these are based on what to be able to lower the carbon emission by 2015. And then also this ambition have also been supported by different policies work that are on the ground, like the green growth and the climate resilience strategy, the vision 2050. But something that I really wanted to highlight here, talking about the MRV system, is a part of the national determined contribution, Rwanda, that submitted, then the second one, the second indices, Rwanda submitted to be able to reduce the greenhouse gas emission by 38%, by 2030. And then I think, as I highlight here, you can see that basically including like 16% of like in the unconditional frame, and then also adding some kind of 22 conditional measurement that also will help to be able to attain the commitment. And then, as I was saying, as you can see here, the main, like I highlight the three main sectors, which are the agriculture, that are contributing to 55% of the emission. We have an energy, 31%. We also have the waste for 12% as well. So what should we do? The question here is, what should we do to also be able to track, to follow up all those emissions, and then to be able to report it in the international way? Please, can we go to the next slide? When I just wanted here to come up on when we say MRV, so maybe I think everyone is not expert on MRV here, like maybe people from RIMA, or maybe digital and the other sectors that are also following, maybe in the platform of the MRV system. But it's important to also highlight that the MRV is what we basically call the measurement, reporting, and verification framework. Okay, so when we say the measurement, what are we measuring? What are we following up? So basically, we put some kind of, we can follow up the emissions, and basically methane and so on. We can also follow up, have some kind of mitigation or adaptation strategy also are also part of what we maybe intend to be able to do, and what are some kind of finance support that we do have that are also supported in this kind of strategy. How are we doing the verification? So are we going out, are we developing some kind of indicators, specific indicators that allowed us to be able to verify? Are we doing some kind of audit? What are we doing? And then how are we reporting? So basically, I think this morning there has been a very good setting point that I'm talking about, okay, the national contribution determined that as like one of the documents that allowed to be able to report. And then there's a lot of documents, you know, the DJ from Rima was saying that actually Rwanda is also working on coming up with his, I think the fourth national communication as well, and then actually also going, like, you know, doing all his effort to be able to gather information on the third version of the NDCs, which is normally supposed to, I think all the countries around the world are supposed to be submitted, I think by next year, if I do not mess it up. So I think this is just to give the definition of what we call as MRV system. So just to set the ground. Please, next slide. So why the MRV system is important, as I was saying, it helps to track the progress. You know, basically in the NDC, when we are submitting the NDCs, the MRV system will help to track the progress. What from the NDCs, the update NDCs of 2020, which was the second NDC of Rwanda, what has been the progress that need to be able to be highlighted in the third version of the NDCs. So those are how also the MRV system can help to be able to track and also to inform policies, because when we have a good framework, MRV framework, I think it also helps us to be able, you know, to inform the policies. And also, basically, the MRV system also helped to be able to, you know, to attract funds. Someone was talking this morning about the green bond, the climate finance, and so on. So those kind of MRV system also can also help to also attract funds, and also to also strengthen the institution framework, and also support some kind of adaptation and mitigation strategy. Okay, so next slide. Please, you do allow me, because as we have the information, I don't want to go into details. I don't want to read. That's why I'm just telling you what I have in terms of ideas beyond what I put in the framework. So, so why do we have to strengthen, you know, the MRV system of Rwanda? So I think basically David now is really paying attention to make sure that Vicky, you're not saying anything rubbish, so don't mind if David. So it's very important. We know that despite that Rwanda actually do have a very good framework, MRV system framework, but we still think that there still be some kind of challenges that really have to, you know, to be able to address in order to make sure that the we have in Rwanda a very good and high strengthened MRV system. So basically, there is this kind of trying to adjust the technical need, okay, by some kind of strategy. This here I put in kind of challenges. I mentioned that it's, we have here some kind of limited data availability and quality. Why I mentioned this, because basically when we really want to be able to develop indicators that were allowed to be able to see what is the progress that we have from what we put as a commitment and where we stand. I think we need data. So since the morning we were talking about the data availability and its quality, I think it's something that we really need to rework, okay, to be able to make sure that we really have, we can be able to measure, report, and verify, and also like track this kind of our commitment and see the improvement in terms of our greenhouse gases emissions in the country level. And also I mentioned here that though we still have some kind of coordination, like for example from sectors to sectors, but I think cross-cutting coordination from one sector and others, I think still also have to be really improved, okay, to make sure that at some point the cross-cutting system also are able to coordinate, because the emission that we can have in the energy sectors and also in the agricultures and or maybe in the waste sector, there's some kind of cost cutting. So how are we making sure that we minimize our contribution, and then we help each sector to be able to be more resilient? And then also, I also mentioned in terms of capacity gaps in terms of subnational level. So basically here to be able to mention that we still have to also be able to include some kind of digital tools, okay, that can also allow to be able to automize. I think in one meeting, our colleague from RIMA was mentioning that actually what they are trying to do is to make sure it's still on the way that we have and how can I say that? An automatic system that can help to know where is the data and what are the indicator that has been calculated or maybe put based on the availability of the data, and what are we reporting. I think if we have this kind of automatic system, it can really help us to be able to strengthen the MRV system, and then also ensure that we do have a transparency emission reporting that also already is doing good, but we still have to improve it. And also make sure that when we are reporting in the NDCs, we have, we can know where, okay, say, okay, please, based on this value, just go on this. And then also someone mentioned in the morning that sometimes we do have indicators. You can have indicators in one report that are the same indicator that are maybe different in another report. So how are we making sure that we track this kind of, have some kind of consistency in terms of our data and the information that we provide? This is also an automatic system, and today we are talking about the AI. The AI, so how can those AI allow us to be able to have an automatic system that can allow to connect data, the calculation, which are the indicators, and then also the report aspect. So next slide, please. I hope I'm still on the time, tracking on the time, so I'm taking my time. So here is just to show, so I may be very wrong, but I tried based on what I've seen in terms of the MRV framework, in Rwanda, to be able to highlight. So I mentioned that RIMA is like, the heart of these systems, which is normally RIMA. And then though we do have the Minister of Environment that are, in terms of the policies, adopting whatever, when we have the indicators. So how are we putting the indicators in the policies? So people at the Minister of Environment definitely have to validate the indicators, whatever is, and then people that are, where we are getting the data. We are basically getting the data from the National Institute of Statistics. We can also get the data from Miniconfi when it comes on the climate finance side and so on. What are the kind of finance available and so on. And all those data information, I put some kind of specific report or document that also allow to be able to, to calculate the indicators and so also. This just to give you a broad overview of the MRV framework in Rwanda, that we can still also, improve with the international organization around, like for example, GIZ, and so all the institutions that are also supporting, like nationally, REMA, how are we making sure that we put all those institutions in this framework? So this is something that I think I'm drawing the attention of REMA to make sure that at least all those local NGO, international NGO, how are we putting them in our MLV systems? I think they are already there, but how are we make sure that they also contribute? Because basically in some countries, like for example Cote d'Ivoire, because I worked on the MLV system of the Cote d'Ivoire. So what we try to do is at some point we try to make sure that though there is the same institution as REMA in Cote d'Ivoire that are the one leading the MRV system. There's also their National Statistics Agency, which has like, they call it a database where they collect all the information for all the sectors, and then they keep it. And this is something that is like automatic. So all the sectors know where to send the data. And then which kind of data that they need based on the indicator that they want to calculate. What are the required data that we need? And then they always provide in this that system, and then the international institution, like for Cote d'Ivoire, for example, JSD is really like play a lot in the MRV system in Cote d'Ivoire. So I don't know, JZ here in Rwanda, if you are also supporting the MRV system in Rwanda, but if not, I think this is also like an opportunity to also see what your colleague in Cote d'Ivoire are doing to be able to support our country in terms of the MRV system in Rwanda as well. So can we go on the next slide, please? So yeah, in this slide, I just wanted to basically put into to highlight, yes, what are the kind of elements that we basically consider in the, and this is, linking the MRV system, so we do have the data. Basically, who are the responsible of this data? It's very important. Who owns this data? Who has this data? Though REMA is the one having the heart, but who has the data? I think REMA is really doing very good, knowing if we want this kind of data, please, this is where we are getting it and so on. But I think also the other institutions also have to, to also be willing to play a very specific role in the MRV system in terms of, providing, like based on this indicator, those are the data that we think we have, and then we can able to support the system as well. And then what are the kind of, the greenhouse gas inventory, also has helping to be able, to have a good data thought, and then I still the National Statistics of National Institute of Statistics also, that are something that also has to make sure of the quality of the data that we are getting, because if we are calculating some kind of indicators and then we are not make sure that the data that we are collecting are high quality, like have a high quality value, we may be wrong when we are providing the indicators that will allow us to track our emission and so on. So on the next slide, please. So basically here I highlight when we take the agriculture sector. So I think if I'm wrong, David, I will be able to correct it. But I think I took this information from the indices, the updated indices of the 2020, which are highlighted that the agriculture sectors basically do have like 55% in terms of greenhouse gas emission contribution. So, and then basically this also targeted by what? By the culture of rice and some kind of enteric fermentation that are also increasing the emission as well. And then here what I mentioned is in terms of to be able to gather data information, even till the to the agroforest estimation, even to the farm? How are we getting because sometimes some kind of things that has been doing in our farms, and then we do not have the information. How are we gathering those kind of information? So I think there's many methodology that are available in the IPCC's portal that are to be able to adopt the test 2 methodology that can also help to be able to get those information, and also how are we integrating this kind of framework into our data site and so on, and then keep some kind of consultancy work in those specific subsector of the agriculture to be able to collect all the information that are also linked to this kind of emission. Next slide, please. So we're still on the agriculture sector. So from this emission, from the updated indices, Rwanda said that, okay, what we want is to be able to achieve, to reduce our emission to 55% in the agriculture sector, okay? So based on that, what are we measuring? So what are we reporting specifically? So for me, I was just thinking, so the kind of data that we can collect are basically the data that are linking to land area, for example, or some kind of rotation agriculture that has been doing their frequency, what are the type of cost that we do have, and then also the kind of soil, the type of soil that we do have, and the emissions of CO2, the carbon, and so on, and also the N2 as well, and what are the kind of baseline emission that we do have based on a specific those sectors, and then also what are the kind of indicators that we are calculating. So we are basically calculating the greenhouse gas emissions linked to all those emissions. What are their volume in terms of carbon, sequestry, and also to see what are the kind of erosion reduction rate that we do have, basically. So I'm just putting some kind of, they are not exhaustive, but I'm just doing some kind of proposition, and then we can also improve them also later. And also in terms of policy, what are the kind of policies that we do have that are also, be able to strengthen this kind of measurement that we are doing? How are we reporting them? Are we reporting them only in the indices, or are we taking them into consideration in all our communication as well? And how can we verify that the indicators that we are doing are, are really the one that has to be done? Are we, cross-cutting, doing some kind of audit, like intern audits, basically? I think each sector, for example, the agriculture sector also, for Minagri or the specific sub-sector, can do their internal audit first. Not wait for REMA to come and do their audit, I think. We can still have some kind of sectoral audit to make sure that the kind of indicators that have been submitted are really verified, and also to cross-check from different, we can also still use satellite images to make sure that whatever we are also proposing is also accurate. So when we take the energy sectors, please, next slide. Please, I can see people sleeping, but I don't know if I'm speaking too fast. I'm sorry, I do have an issue with my tongue, so I can speak very fast. And so, can you hear me? Are you sure? Seriously? Please, can you clap for yourself if you can hear me? No, I can't hear you. Can you clap for yourself if you can hear me? So thank you very much. So let's continue. So basically, when we are targeting the energy sectors, we're here from the updated indices of 2020. It was mentioned that, okay, Rwanda, what we want to do is to be able to reduce the emission to 31%, in the energy sector. So basically, the source of emissions here in the energy sector are basically coming from what? Fossil fuel, biomass, and electricity generation. And I still, whenever I put, this is not something that I'm targeting REMA, but REMA are doing very good, but REMA also need, and the other sectors also are also watching REMA, but I think we still need to really work on the data. This data gap is a very real issue, and we have to rework on the data, make sure that we have all the data, centralized in a database, okay, to be able to also inform that, the energy use, what are the kind the type of energy that we have, how are these being used, and so on. And also, we also need to also strengthen, our institutional memory system, basically working with the National Institute of Statistics. And what I'm putting here is just to make sure that we centralize the data. This is very important, and then also build up a very strong, data sharing protocol that can allow, basically each institution that are contributing, to calculate the indicators legally should have access to the data so that whatever, because we will be talking in the morning, how are we making sure that the research also help, the policies, the decision makers to be able to come up with good results. So if we do not have data, how can we do the research? How can we calculate the indicators? So I think we still have to really rethink on how we centralize the data, how are we making sure that all the subsectors, provide, we have a centralized information, which is already are working on that, and they are really doing good. But how the other sectors also can also have their own centralized database, that whenever REMA asks them, they can also, have the system that also connect to REMA and then be able to share this information. Next slide. So in the, what are we measuring, for example, in the energy sector? So when we want to be able to attend, like, for example, the measurement, for example, what was put in the adapted NDC was to be able to come up with 156 megawatts in terms of hydroelectricity, capacity. So how are we tracking this? So we can, in terms of the data, have what we call the installed capacity of those hydroelectricity panels, and we can also have what are the number of time of operation that those kind of are working. Are they full some kind of baseline that they do use? Are they still using maybe some kind of diesel in the process? Even though we can say, okay, we are shifting to have 156 megawatts in terms of hydroelectricity, and then in the generation we still use fossil diesel for our engine, and so also is this really are we really going for this hydro generation and so on? So I think those are the kind of indicators that can also allow us to be able, to calculate or to define, okay, what will help us to track our emission basically. I will not so. Those are just to give how are we reporting, how are we verifying. So it's the same process, but specifically we have to take the specific indicator and see what are we gathering as information to be able to track this. Next slide, please. So for the waste sectors, for example, so one of the mitigation measures is to be able to invest in wastewater treatment, and then also some kind of reuse technology to be able to have some kind of clean water based on the wastewater. And based on this mitigation, so what are we measuring? We can also measure this kind of the volume of the wastewater that we are treating. It's some kind of measurement that we can do. What are we calculating? We can also calculate the emission, the kind of methane emission, or maybe CO2 emission from this kind of wastewater. And then also we, from the policies, so basically our national policies and then the international policies can also help us to be able to guide us more on how to also measure them. And then what are we reporting? We're still in the and this is that can help us to report, and we do have our national policies and content that can also help us to report, and what are we verifying in this site. So next slide. So in terms of general, next slide please. Yes, so this is basically my general recommendation that I was putting is just to be able to build up a very robust and strong MRV system. I think Rwanda we still have to work to try to how can I say that, to make it like to rework basically on the MRV framework that are available, but also trying to institutionalize, sorry, this word is very complicated for me, and also try to also digitalize also the system as well. And I think we still have personnel, but when it comes to calculate the specific indicators, I think REMA, we should has focal point in the different cross-cutting sectors that are allowing to be able to have this MRV framework, but are they trained to be able themselves to calculate the indicators, or are we still maybe hiring experts to come, you know, and then do our calculation, and then maybe when they leave, we are not following up. I think those are the kind of things that we have to also start rethinking about. So I will not go into the details, and so this is my conclusion. Next slide, please. So here I was saying that, okay, Rwanda is already doing good in a very good pathway on his MRV framework, but I think we still have to ensure that we have more accurate and then complete, and also timeline, because sometimes also we do have data, but we don't have the data on a a good period that can allow us to be able to have a good indicator that can allow us to also track our emission. And also, actually, we have to continue making sure that progress continue, you know, evaluate ourselves on how we are also still reaching out to this international reporting, you know, obligation, and then to make it efficiency, and also to also still improve the formulation of our indicator, because sometimes, you know, some indicators can not be very specific, and then very difficult to be able to know what are the kind of data that we need to be able to collect, and then to be able to calculate this indicator. So if we have specific indicators that are specific to specific data, I think it can also allow us to be able to see. So I can see the timekeeper that was looking at the time to see if I'm still on track, but I think I'm always done. And then also empower our local actors in terms of data collection and how we monitor those data information. So basically, this is me saying, going at the end of my presentation. Next slide. And then maybe, next slide. So yes, highlighting what before this, I also put the kind of document that I use to be able to come up with this presentation. So in case I miss something, then we still have to improve it. No, so it was a good pleasure sharing this with you, and then I'm happy that you, if you have contribution, question, I'm still available to respond to them. So thank you very much for your attention, and so
thank you, Dr. Vicky. So we can just. So it was a very, very nice presentation, full of insights. As you mentioned, in conclusion, I like something you mentioned about training focal points on MRV and different sectors. So this is a very key point, because you have different sectors, and you found like some sectors are very active compared to others, while we need to enhance the reporting. But what I want to highlight, because this kind of MRV is like a process, you cannot have a good reporting without a good verification, and you cannot have a good verification without good measurement. So for me, I'm sticking on measurement. So this is my first question. Dr. Vicky, you are going to help us, because sometimes the data we use here in Rwanda are like estimates, because they are inventories, they are not real data. So what do you think on can you suggest or recommend to REMA or other institutions, such as, like you mentioned, agriculture sector, such as RAB, REG? What do you suggest in terms of having real data instead of, so that those real data can come and complement what they are doing now, so that we can have, you say, a good quality. I mean, we can have many data, but which are not with a good quality. So what do you think in those sectors, what they should do to enhance the accuracy?
Okay, so thank you very much, Didier, for this question. I think I tried to highlight it when I was coming to the specific sectors that basically I think, as you mentioned, to be able to make sure that we really have like accurate data, we need to really define our indicators in a way that the indicators is measurable, that we can measure these indicators. Because sometimes we do have indicators that are not measurable. And then when it comes to the sectors, it's very difficult for them to also understand what are the kind of data that we can provide to them to be able to measure this. So when we have a good indicator that are measurable, it helps to know what are the kind of data that we need. And then I think from the sector level, then they can also, sometimes what they can do is even circulate a survey internally to find out where are those kind of data located, who has it, who is the owner. I also mentioned about the ownership of the data. Who's the owner of this data? And then if the data is not available, how are we making sure that we can even like develop them? Because as you mentioned, because if we still maybe relying on the satellite information or information maybe gathering outside, it doesn't really reflect on our local commitment. So I think it's defining the indicators, making sure that it's measurable, and then it will allow us to really track on the kind of data that we need to collect. Yeah.
Thank you. So I don't know if there is someone who has a question or a comment.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Vicky, for the good presentation, and congratulations for touching the main key point we have when it comes of reporting or giving information relating to climate change. Because each country has to report whether they are mitigating or adapting to climate change. And MRV is one of the, okay, we tend to call it a system because it's multiple action. And it's the same challenge that we have in Africa, not only Rwanda as well as others. So first of all, congratulations for the work. Maybe my question is going to be about the scope. I saw that for each sector, you touch on one intervention and try to elaborate measurement, reporting, the verification. My first question was regarding the scope of your work. If you have completed all the measures in the NDC already, or you have touched some as a sample, maybe we're going to address it. And regarding the digital tools, maybe we're going to touch also on that. In Africa, some countries use digital tools, but separated. Like here in Rwanda, you can see each line ministry has a system of data, but separated. When it comes over communicating, that's where there is a problem. They track the data, they have the data, and when it comes of bringing together, that's where there's a problem. What is your recommendation about that? Thank you.
Okay, so please, Chair, do you allow me to respond? Okay, thank you. So thank you, David, for your comments and questions. I think I was really expecting you to talk because you are one of the focal points at REMA working on those points. So basically what here is, it's not something that I've been working in terms of research. So basically, when I saw the symposium, and then based on what we were working with you, Rema, and then what I know, so based on my personal background on working on MRV, I was like, okay, when I look at the indices, those are the points that I think we should think about. So I think I just try to highlight what we have to do. And then I think if this is something that is very useful to Rema, we can still see how we work specifically on the the other sectors to be able to come up with all those measurement, reporting steps, and then the verification. Because I've already, like, since 2021, worked on MLV system of Côte d'Ivoire, but specifically on the energy sectors as well. So I think this is something that we can still work on in terms of as supporting RIMA on coming up with this specific measurement for the sector that we have in the indices. So you also mentioned a point on basically some institutions do have the data, and then when it comes to how to centralize, right, the information, what should we do? I think basically, David, I think Rema is trying his best already. I know what you guys are doing, trying to make sure that you gather the information for the different sectors to be able to track the indicators. But I think what I was mentioning is we should also have some kind of database in all the different sectors based on the specific indicators. What are we looking for? Because as you mentioned, the communication, if the sector did not understand what are the indicators about and how is these indicators linking to them, you see, it will be very difficult for them to be able to provide the information that is needed. But once the indicator is provided, and then there's some kind of capacity building for each sectors, mention to them, okay, based on these sectors, those are the data that we will be needing in 5 years. For example. So I think that will allow each sector to start now gathering the information each year, and then by the time that we will be starting maybe working, on the to renew the or to update the indices, then we have at least the information. So I think it's how to build the capacity of the different sectors, how to let them understand how their work are also linked to the specific indicators, okay, will also help to be able to gather the information, I think so. So I hope I'll be able to answer your question, David.
Is there any other, so that we can continue with the next panelist? So it's okay if we can just continue with Prof. So, okay. Just let's have one.
Thank you, Dr. Vicky, for the good and insightful presentation. My question was regarding data and digitalization of data and how they can be centralized. Because one, I have to ask what data do we need? Do we only need satellite data, and how can we measure them in terms of equipment, or how the logistics or the costing of measurements, and also how can we digitalize or create a database in terms of data in different sectors, and how feasible is it in terms of cost?
Okay, so thank you, Jane, for your question. So basically, maybe I'll start by the last question. So how costly the database can be, that one I think I cannot know, because it's not basically my expertise on designing the platform. I don't know how it is, but maybe the database expert can basically know how costly this can be. But in terms of, for example, we can go on satellite information when we don't have observation information. For example, there's some specific, like, okay, when we want to know where are the crops located, like, okay, where are, for example, the region in Rwanda where we have a lot of crops, and what are the type of crops that we have. Sometimes I think there's specific information that we can not get, like, from our, I don't know, report and so on. But also then it's when the satellite information, maybe trying to map and then to see where those kind of things are located. I think maybe my colleague Didier, we were having a project, actually that Didier is the one leading, and then I think we are also co-leading. And then we were trying to discuss with him we found out that there was some kind of information that we were looking at in terms of, I don't know, it was some kind of pollutant.
Sure.
Yeah, and then we tried to zoom. I think he did it. He zoomed in terms. He tried to zoom it, and then we also found, I think, the reason of what we were having this kind of pollutant at this area. So I think sometimes also having the image and knowing our country can also help us to complete, the information that we are missing. I don't know, Jane, if I've been able to respond. And then how do we have a centralized database? This is what I was telling you, Rema. It can be just a digital, something that are online. And then maybe a server located at Rema, basically, because they are the one in charge. And then each sectors do have the database that are also connected, to Rema database. And I think it can share automatically information to Rema database, and then I think it can centralize all those information around. And then this system, centralized system, will be the one communicating, around all other sectors. So I don't know if I've been able to respond to your question.
Maybe I can just compliment and this kind of satellite observation, because sometimes people, they think the satellite is like a model, the satellite is like, it's not a real measurement, but a satellite is a tool of measuring. It's like to get a sensor, you put in space, then you measure. So it's like any sensor on ground. So at Rwanda Space Agency, what we do, even many institutions here in Rwanda, we normally use different kind of satellite depending on the purpose we want. For instance, this kind of greenhouse gases. Personally, I was working on methane, CO2, and nitrous oxide. And for instance, 10 years ago, using, for instance, NASA IRS satellite, you can just monitor how in Rwanda the GHG, I mean the CO2 or methane, was reducing or increasing across the Rwanda, across the country. And when you use the satellite imagery, you can know this area is an agricultural land, this area is an urbanization place. So you can just see, and this area is the industrial area, this area is where they generate electricity, and you can see automatically how much these areas or this industry or institution has contributed to reduction or to increase the GHG. So this is one of the tools. But as far as I know, we have not yet, unfortunately, there is this kind of data. But I think in the future we are going to contribute, not just only relying on inventories, which are estimate, but we just complement the inventories, the information on the ground, with also the satellite measurement. This is how we are going to fill the gap of spatial coverage. Otherwise, when you are relying on instrument on ground, you cannot cover all country. So to cover that gap, you need to combine both the data on ground and also the data from the satellite. So Jadet, I think it is clear, I think. Thank you. So maybe because of the time, you can just allow Professor Thompson, because of the time.
Thank you. Permit me to stand on the existing protocol. I was almost sleeping because I never knew I was going to present when they asked us to go for our lunch. I hope I can stand here talking. So I overfed. So I was almost sleeping. But all the same, I don't want to talk much. From the beginning, from genesis of the program, a lot of people have talked about gases. Even the first speaker, I'm not going to speak to my slide. I'm not going to speak to it. But there's things I'm going to talk about that based on the topic is greenhouse gases emission monitoring, which is very central. I think we have de-emphasized monitoring. You cannot monitor. Without monitoring, there is no report. without monitoring, there's no verification. I think it's something we need to emphasize on. And why we don't talk about it in Africa is because monitoring greenhouse gases is prohibitive. It's too costly. It's not something you Africa is not easy, because there was a research I did that was about 4 years ago, monitoring in Nigeria and greenhouse gases. So, but let me not just let me first of all go, when we are talking about greenhouse gases, what are the major greenhouse gases? CO2, methane, and nitrogen monoxide. These are basic. But there are other greenhouse gases which we don't talk about, which are also notorious. The F gas. But the one we talk about, based on the major activities that is synonymous with Africa, which is agriculture, the methane, and methane, CO2, and nitrogen monoxide. So I'm going to talk about, I'm not going to spend too much time, because like I said, I'm not going to speak to my slide. The first speaker has spoken so much, you know, and I'm going to talk about measurement. When we talk about monitoring, which is very sacrosanct, it's the main thing. And why are we shying away? Why are we not talking about it? Nobody's talking about monitoring. Measurement. You must get this concentration. And before you do that, you must involve in baseline data. How do you know that agriculture is having the highest, or is contributing to the highest CO, or nitrogen monoxide, or methane? We are not talking about F gases now, but I just want to dwell on the three basic greenhouse gases. Because you can't talk about climate change without talking about monitoring of greenhouse gases. How do you do that? You know, a lot of people have spoken about satellite imagery, remote sensors. These are two. They have this equipment, they have their pros and cons. But there are basic equipment that we can educate ourselves. And I think because of the prohibitive nature of the equipment used in monitoring greenhouse gases, we don't talk about it. We don't talk about it. How can you be talking about climate change when you don't know the level of CO2, the concentration of CO2 in the atmosphere? You don't know the concentration of nitrogen monoxide in the atmosphere. You don't know the concentration of methane in the atmosphere. What report are you giving? How do you monitor things? How do you know the contribution of agriculture or urbanization? How do you know how it influenced the increase of concentration of methane, CO2, and nitrogen? But I want to thank, when I came to Rwanda, I was so pleased. A lot of things are in place to check climate change. I must thank the president for the nice work, because when I just opposed Nigeria and Rwanda, you know, I feel like not going back to my country again because of what is in place to check. But it's not enough. Where we have problem is monitoring. We don't have data. We have paucity of data. Nobody's talking about the concentration of CO2, the concentration of nitrogen monoxide, the concentration of methane. We don't want to go more because we are talking about Africa. If we want to go in total, we must talk about F gas. 2. So it is very important to monitor these things, to know the residential time, how long they spend in the atmosphere, because they are notorious nuisance. When you know the effect, because when we talk about, if you don't monitor them, you cannot specifically say that a CO2 or methane or nitrogen monoxide is the cause of heat wave. You know, one thing I've noticed with Africa in general, we de-emphasize air pollution, which is the main thing. We have been here, I've been here, I was telling my student that I've not taken water because I don't want to be going to the restroom all the time, because Rwanda has changed my system because it's very cold and all that. I don't sweat. You know, if we were to be in Nigeria, I would sweat it out. You know what it takes for you not to take water, but everybody has been here. Nobody can tell me that he has not been breathing. Can we say that? Can you stay in this place? You say you don't breathe for 5 seconds? But I can stay without drinking water the whole day. But the rate we de-emphasized air pollution, because I won't blame anybody, it's because of the cost that is involved. And when you check, how many people are researching on air pollution, on greenhouse gases? I'm telling you now, when I did on greenhouse gases, I monitor methane and CO2. I could not mention nitrogen monoxide because the cost was too expensive. There's an in-situ measurement. You don't need to use satellite. They all have their pros and cons, like I told you. Satellite imagery, you have seasonal variation, temporal measurement. But there's an equipment, handheld equipment, just like phone. You can go to where, okay, maybe this Mr. A, farmland, this one, he can tell you before you start farming or before you start planting anything that contributes, you can measure. You have a baseline data. You get what I'm saying? You have a baseline data. So after planting or harvesting, during growth, you find out, you measure. You go with your equipment. It's something, but it's expensive. Is a farmer who is just planting, what's it called? What's this? The commonest cassava, sweet potato. Can he buy equipment of 10 million naira just to measure nitrogen? Are you getting what I'm saying? So that is why people are not talking about. When you talk about data, there is equipment to measure. As we are here, if you want to know the concentration of CO2, you just handle, just like the way your phone is. You measure the concentration of CO2. There are some equipment, they are multi-purpose. It can give you the concentration of CO2, can give you the concentration of methane, can give you the concentration of nitrogen monoxide. The same thing with F gases. There are equipment, handheld, in situ measurement. So because it's expensive, that is the bane. That is what is confronting Africa. That is why there's a proposal. There's something I want to do. I wanted to, repeat what I've done in Nigeria, but unfortunately, I didn't come with my air sampler. I think something we need to do, we need to look into, because if we don't talk about greenhouse gases, it's going to be a terrible, especially Rwanda that is very hilly and it's mountainous and all that. Climate change is a very serious issue that we need to look into. Why doing that? You must talk about monitoring, which is the central issue. So I think we need to look into that aspect. How do we get this equipment? How do we get this equipment in various parastatals? And educate our people. It's not something, the equipment is foolproof. What I mean by foolproof is something somebody can handle. Just like the way you can handle your phone. Even people cultivating the farmland can also use it. If they can make call and receive call. Just for them to program it. But like I said, each equipment, whether satellite imagery, remote sensing, handheld equipment for measuring the concentration of each of these pollutants, they have their pros and cons. So that is the problem we are facing. So anytime we want to talk about climate change, we must be emphatic on the measurement. Because you don't know what is happening. How can you? Because it's when you want to talk about rainfall, you want to talk about heat wave, you want to talk about temperature, you must talk about the greenhouse gases. What are the concentration? What are the baseline? Because what is the function? What is greenhouse gas? It traps, which leads to heat, snowball to polar ice, increase in temperature. So you cannot talk about any other parameter without centralizing on the greenhouse gases, which are the CO2, methane, nitrogen monoxide. Thank you. God bless you.
We thank you, Prof, for this kind of recommendation, very strong, and that we need. Of course, in Rwanda and even in many developing countries, as you mentioned, the budget is a critical issue. Those instruments are very expensive. I know here in Rwanda, REMA has that mandate, Rwanda Environment Management Authority, REMA. They have that mandate to monitor, to measure the pollutant. Maybe people who are in REMA here, they are going to help us to understand the plan. Maybe Division Manager Eric, he can help us to ensure proof that they have that plan. Of course, because it is their mandate, and I'm sure that they have that mandate to purchase many in situ instruments, and they can cover all Rwanda. So, Eric.
Yeah, thank you, Didier. I think as the mandate, as you say, we have the mandate to try to find out all these pollutants and measure them in situ. We have few instruments that are already there, but the plan is to have as many as data as we can, which can also help the policymakers and all other researchers and scientists to be aware of what is happening and to make use of what is measured outside. So I think the plan is, as Didier said, these are very expensive instruments, but it's not only that we need to buy them. We have different partners with the government of Rwanda as well, who can look on this with different phases. So far we have some, but in the future we need to increase more. Many are concentrated maybe in Kigali, so we need to get more in Western region and Southern and in East, so that we can cover the whole country. So it is there, but it requires as time, and most of the equipment also need more expertise, and then they need the maintenance capabilities. So once we have all these planned together, and then we can go for, and as well, they keep changing. So that's another issue. So you find the instrument is working today, the next few years, you need to buy another one. So the best way is to make sure that you have equipment that will last a little bit longer, and then that will serve the purpose. So that's what I can say so far. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Maybe
thank you to promote me.
So maybe Prof. Thompson, I can show that, of course, REMA is our boss in these areas of climate change. But Rwanda Space Agency, we have an instrument called Picaro. Picaro is very expensive. So in 10 years ago, from around 2011, 2012, we had that instrument from MIT. So, and as Eric mentioned, after 10 years, so that instrument, the MIT people recommended us to use another one, because that one was no longer measuring accurately. So now we had before 2401, G2401. Now we have Picaro G2401. So this one, it can measure 4 parameters: carbon dioxide, CO2, CH4, methane, nitrous oxide, and water vapor. On a daily basis, even every 5 seconds. So you can see how huge these data is. But because this kind of, the atmosphere doesn't have a boundary, so we have put that instrument in a rural area in Western province, so that on mountain, so that with the wind, it can transport all emissions in this region, so that we can see the information on all regional not only Rwanda. So because of the wind. So as you go up, it can measure the emissions from as long as possible, even including Mozambique, Mauritius, you see. So this is one of our contribution. So that instrument, the datas, we just analyze them as a scientist. Then the policymakers, like REMA, we shall just share them, the insight, and it's up to them now to report and to make some tangible policy making. But we have not yet started sharing those kind of data because of the issue he was mentioning about the instrumentation and the calibration issues. Yeah, but we have already. So this is a one instrument. Another instrument, you mentioned that people like to talk about the methane, CO2, nitrous oxide. But for information, you know in Rwanda, I think 2019, if I'm not mistaken, there was here a Montreal Protocol, Kigali Amendment. I don't remember, that time I was not in Rwanda. But that Montreal Protocol, they focus on ozone depleting substances, the ODS. The ODS are also the greenhouse gases. But when you go in COP, in the Paris Agreement, they focus on CO2 methane. While the ODS, ozone depleting substances, so it means the chemicals, HFC, hydrofluorocarbon, carbon, the CFCs, the chlorofluorocarbon, all those chemicals, they just destroy our ozone layer. So those are also the, like that kind of AC is one of the source of ozone depleting substances. So it means we should not just concentrate on, if we want to improve the reporting. I really like that you mentioned, you make straightforward on monitoring. So without a good system, good instrumentation of how we can measure, we cannot have accurate the report and verification. So it means, as you mentioned, of course, I am in remote sensing, so of course the satellite has some limitation, of course. Especially in Rwanda, we are in tropical areas, we have too much cloud. So for information, the tropomi, we use a tropomi to measure the methane. And during the rainfall season, when the satellite passes over Rwanda, it cannot detect, it cannot measure Rwanda. I mean the methane over Rwanda because of the cloud coverage. But if we combine the ground, we can now overcome that gap or that limitation of satellite. But also the instrumentation, you cannot put the instruments all over all sectors or all village in Rwanda. That's why it is better to combine both in situ instrument and also the satellite instrument. So that's why we can improve our monitoring system. So I don't, yes, please, there is.
Thank you. I'm by names of Miriam Jean-Maria. I am from University of Rwanda. Mine is not a question, just a contribution. When you talk about this greenhouse gases measurements, mainly we are talking about emissions. I was also thinking about what about the absorption of these gases, contribution of plant cover in the country, whereby people can look at how do forests do in terms of absorbing carbon dioxide. What about agricultural land? When it comes to agricultural land, you think about annual, perennial crops that can last longer in the field and absorb and store amount of carbon. And when it comes to this, I was also thinking about the data accuracy as we have been talking about this. I know some studies have been carried out in different research institutions here in Rwanda, including the University of Rwanda where I'm working. And we tried to take plot level, tree level measurement of carbon dioxide absorption and release from trees. And I think that also coming back to the issue of instrument, it's really hard to get those very expensive instruments, although they are very important for the quantification of this absorption of carbon dioxide. And REMA, as an institution that is having this in its mandate, if you think about equipment, please also think about this equipment for the quantification of the plant absorption of carbon dioxide. And I think one of the equipment that we used to use was being borrowed from abroad. And sometimes when you finish a project, then it's taken back, which is also a problem. Please think about this. Maybe I can also roughly talk about the cost. It's one machine that is portable that can cost up to $60,000 US. Thank you.
Wow, it is very expensive. And but we cannot lose hope. Africa is, in French, they say it is, l'Afrique c'est le berceau de l'humanité. So it's where the humankind started. So we should not lose hope. And so I don't know if you mentioned about is it the Denmark with a guy from Denmark? Sweden. Because I know someone from University of Rwanda who did a very nice paper. He's working, I think, in Maurice. Yes, because he was doing a very nice work using satellite to monitor the forests carbon. And for your information, there is a satellite they have launched 2 weeks ago, I think, called the biomass satellite from European Space Agency. That satellite is going to help us now to it is a SAR satellite. So Professor Thompson said that the satellite has an intention, but that the SAR satellite penetrate the cloud. So it doesn't have any issue on the weather. So the biomass is going to help us to monitor the amount of carbon in the forest. So this is for your information, for those who like to do research in forestry. So, and because as you know, as we have not yet having this kind of instrument to monitor at small scale, we can now rely on the satellite, the SAR, synthetic aperture radar, to penetrate inside the weather, the cloud, so that we can just now contribute to have tangible, effective, accurate data. Thank you. So I don't know if you have, yes, please.
Thank you very much. I'm Salim Kabano from University of Rwanda. I had a short question on access of local communities towards the use of these tools for measuring greenhouse gases. I think Professor Faraday said there is a case study or a successful story from Nigeria, right? And if so, how accurate is the data from that is being collected by rural or local communities down there? Because they may have, I'm not sure if they are having enough skills to make sure to say that this data produced. I like the answer that has been said from the other panelists from the European Space Agency satellite, which says they are now getting accurate data just with the tool. But for the local communities, like the case study which Faraday said from Nigeria, if it could be something we could learn from, how effective is it for the data produced by too many people, like too many local communities which are collecting all those informations?
Prof, the floor is yours.
Like I said, when you look at, let's take Rwanda as a case study. If you go to rural area, most of the activities, the major activity is farming. And when you talk about this equipment, maybe, you know, when you have not seen something, it is usually difficult for you to really understand it. Because I've used it, and, you know, like I said, these measuring tools, they have their pros and cons. And when we also talk about these handheld equipment that are kind of foolproof, what I mean by foolproof, it can easily be held by anybody, it can easily be used by anybody as far as you can operate your phone. It also depends on the sensitivity, how sensitive, and also depends on the production or the emission of the greenhouse gases. So if we have this equipment and you also look at, you know, the activities that is going on around that place, and it also depends on the sensitivity of these equipment. So if we are able to purchase it, and it's something, it does not necessarily mean that you need to give to the local farmer or the people in the rural area. Like REMA can send people to various communities, take measurements, keep the data. Answer your question? Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. So because of the time, let's just hear our sister before going to the break. So
good afternoon, distinguished participants. Since morning, we have heard many things. So I'm going to use very small minute. Yeah, my slide is there. My name is Orinaumonu. I'm a fellow of Solar International Solar Alliance at IIT Delhi. I'm doing my MTech in Energy Science and Engineering, option of Renewable Energy Technologies and Management. So I'm going to share with you a small part of my research. I was working on, you can go on next slide. I was doing research on solar rooftop technology feasibility study. So then I can see how much this technology can contribute to the government target by 2030 for emission reduction. You can go next slide. As many people they can see in many literature review, it shows that in Rwanda energy mix, since I'm working in the Rwanda energy group, I'm going to talk on energy. The Rwanda energy mix, the big share of energy mix is from hydro. So I think solar is underexplored. We have few share percent of solar energy, so that it can be increasing. You can go to the next slide because I need to focus more on my result and methodology. Objective of my study was to be able to analyze without using that satellite, by using my calculation, using standard formula. Then you can know if you have this size of rooftop, how much energy can be generated from this area, and then from that area, you finish to know the energy available there. Then you can be able to know how much this production is going to contribute to reduce or to save carbon emission. Because you know, when you generate electricity from diesel, for example, for generating 1 kilowatt hour, you are emitting 1.23 kg of carbon dioxide. When you are using coal, you are emitting like 1.09 kg of carbon dioxide. But when you are using solar, we are going to see how much carbon dioxide you are saving. That is my study, what I was doing. You can go to the next slide. Not take much time. Next slide. Yeah. You can see I have done is to show you how to do technical analysis. When you are dealing for emission reduction, first of all, you have to know how much energy you need to deliver from your plant. You have tried to put some formula there. First things you have to consider is the rooftop area you have, then the available irradiance available in your country or in your location. And also you have to see how much energy will be generated through the year. If you generate, in Rwanda it has seen that for one rooftop can generate 4.5, can receive 4.5 kilowatt hour per meter square per day. That one can give you 0.75 kilowatt. So you can take that one, then you see how much rooftop is available in my country. As everyone say, the data is a problem. By now, it is not clear that you can find a document which show you how much rooftop available in Rwanda. So, because of that, I have tried to make, you can go on next slide. I have tried to make assumptions. Since it's a feasibility study, I make assumption, I make a calculation in hope that maybe statistic or another people who is in charge of that, if they have real data, they can replace it quickly to get to know exactly data of how much carbon dioxide will be saved and how much carbon credit they can get. So, yes, this is some of my findings. I have taken many things in Rwanda, I estimate population is almost 14 million. We know that in a rural area, many people, they live there. 70% of the population, they live in a rural area. It means that 30% they live in the city. So by looking on that, in Rwanda, we know that we have 3 categories of people, of household. There is poor, low income, middle income, and rich. So I have tried to assume the average of rooftop for every household. Then after assuming those average, I have tried to know how much rooftop should be available. By considering what? I have assumed that in a rural area, average people, they are 6 or 5 per family. Then by taking the percentage of people who live in the rural area, divide the average of people in each family, you can be able to get how many households which live in that place. And also, I have tried to see in a rural area, if 70% they live in a rural area, how much percentage of that 70% who is poor, you classify like poor, middle, or rich. After that, I have seen some results. Because you understand, I cannot put all those calculations here, it will be too much. But I have seen that this research is showing you how much energy can be generated from category of household in a rural area or in the urban area. Then from that energy available, you can be able to know how much investment needed. The common standard is for generating 1 megawatt from solar, we consider using $1. So after having those kilowatt hour or watt available from each family household, you can be able to know how much the money government need or some private sector they will need to generate that amount of energy. It's not only this, that when we are talking about energy, we talk about energy security. We know that in Rwanda, there are some people who don't have access to electricity. And also the cost of electricity is high. So we are looking on how the cost of electricity should be reduced. That is, you can go back on back, yes. This LCOE is levelized cost of energy. That is a very powerful parameter you have to use when you are comparing the cost of energy. It has shown that by putting much effort in solar rooftop, every person who will have access to this rooftop should has, like, he will have access to energy almost at $0 per kilowatt hour after installation. That is the result which comes from. And then also there is a social economic impact. As the reason why I'm focusing on this is because we know that many people, they live in a rural area and they don't have much income. But by implementing this project, many people will have some job. There is job creation. As some study, they have shown that for each 1 megawatt hour generation, 41 jobs are created. So you can take those amount of kilowatt hour you need to generate, then you will see how many people will have the job. And it's not only that. Go to next slide, I will talk like this. And also we are talking on greenhouse gas emission reduction. By considering emission factor of renewable energy, specifically solar, the researchers has confirmed that for each 1 kilowatt hour generated from solar, you are saving 1.1 kg of carbon dioxide. So you can take those amount of kilowatt hour you will generate through the year, then you times 1.1, you will see how many kg of carbon dioxide will be saved. If you use diesel, now you are replacing with solar, then you can see the contribution in the atmosphere. As you have seen that this issue of climate is not only for Rwanda, it's a global issue. So, and I have also considered, you can go on the next slide, that if like in Rwanda, the carbon market is like, they give, I am not sure because when I try to look on some literature, I have seen that for 1 kg carbon dioxide saved is like $0.03 per kilowatt hour. I need someone to confirm for me, but I have used that for my study so that you can see after saving that carbon emission reduction, you can be able also to get some benefit from what you have saved. By taking the total amount of kg you are saving times that price for carbon saving. So I think I don't have much time. Here was my recommendation. My recommendation was about to have more focus on exploring solar rooftop potential in Rwanda. I'm requesting that if it should be possible, there should be like survey to see how many rooftop is available in Rwanda and how much its size. After that, we can calculation can show us how much profit we can get. Yeah, that is work to be done. And also another things is to use, as we have listened before, that satellite or drone, they can also do like mapping of rooftop in Rwanda so that it can be easy to know how much rooftop available in Rwanda. Yeah, I think that is what I need to share with you. If anyone has a question or need a clarification, can ask me now or after this time, because I think everyone is tired.
Maybe my first question, quick. What REG and REMA and the Ministry of Environment, even the MINALOC, the Ministry of... So what do you have that kind of planning to encourage people to use this kind of renewable energies so that they can replace the one we are often using? Is there any plan?
Yeah, my first plan is to be here. Since I'm presenting my project in front of you all as the people is in charge of climate. So because I'm not yet completing my study, I was still on my study leave. I plan to present this idea to Rwanda Energy Group as my workplace also. And by now I'm presenting this idea to you all. So any suggestion, any improvement, I will be glad to hear from you so that we can have successful implementation of project which can make people, everyone to have access to electricity. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe through NSST, maybe there is this kind of plan. So maybe Dr. Vicky, as it is her expertise, maybe.
So I think I really do appreciate your work that you have done. I think this is that basically I think we really need, as our cities are growing, I think more cities are growing in Africa. And recently what we did is we tried to see what are the energy demand in Africa based on population and growth and also urbanization. And I think this work that we are doing comes to confirm on how to be able to fill this gap in terms of energy demand. So I think based on the question that Didier asked on how are you trying to find a way, to give the ownership to REG of this work, that though you are the experts or because this is your research, but it's very important to make sure that REG also has this kind of ownership of what you are doing. And I think you don't wait until you finish your study, but I think this is a time of collaboration. So you are here and presenting here in this platform, but I think it's also important to also present to REG your findings and tell them, this is what I got, what do you think, and this is what we can improve. And then I think with them, then you will improve. I'm saying this because during my PhD also, I also worked on developing an energy weather sensitive demand tools that help West Africa to be able to predict daily consumption. But I worked towards with the power utilities in West Africa, showing them for each progress, this is what I got, because they may also have some kind of idea and even have some kind of good data for you. So please don't stay to finalize your research, please. The REMAS team are here. There are a lot of institutions that can connect you to REG in case you are not with them yet, but try to connect with REG and make sure that this work, like they really own this work with you. Thank you. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you. Maybe people from REMA, do you have something to add? In terms of, because this, I really like this kind of findings.
Yeah, I think the finding is quite straightforward because she used data that are really available. The rest is to prove that what you have on paper is what is happening on ground, and then to mainstream it to different stakeholders. You say you're working in REG and you're a custodian of energy, and we need to make sure that every Rwandan, if it was 2024, everyone need to have energy today. So I think from a perspective of REMA, it can be an awareness support that can be done, but on REG part, this will be more of interesting with private sector as well, because today we have different private sector that are working in the solar energy, like MySol, Mobisol, and others. So if you can make sure that what you have now is concrete, you present to them, you knock on their door, say, okay, this is what I have. You can improve this with time, and then to be also, the interest of REMA here is on emission reduction. So the emission reduction is quite good, and then I think if most of the people use solar energy, that will be very interesting. But we also know that if we look on the emission reduction perspective, first of all, I don't know if you compare this with other sources of energy that are green, for example, hydropower, how does it correlate, and which one is reducing more of the emission, or which one can you, are we going to push this study on the emission reduction or on access to energy or access supporting and mobilizing people to use solar energy. I think if you think on these two, then we can you can go and then say, okay, this can be good to be used through reg, private sector, and then the comparative study also will be good, so that then when you want to promote something, you need to promote the best. So if you need to promote this on GHG emission reduction compared to other system, that will be also very important if you do they both. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. As I have said, I didn't present many things here. During my research, I tried to compare many sources of electricity generation. Since I'm doing renewable energy technologies, I have tried to see the issue on renewable energy is one for hydropower. In Rwanda, hydropower is also renewable energy, but is a problem when it is more used than solar or than another source. If the country is focusing on hydro, that is not good. That is not good for energy security. That is what we was trying to see. The solar share in energy mix is very low. That is my concern. Is very low. So it will be good if they to increase the share of solar energy in Rwanda energy mix. That was my point. And then for comparison, other source which is non-renewable, everyone know that they emit carbon dioxide emission. So yeah, I can say that by focusing more on solar is because the share of solar is very small, and we know that is the only resource which is available for everyone. Solar energy we didn't export from anywhere, but even if you have hydro, you will need some other things to put in your project. Yeah.
Thank you. We have Dr. Louis. Dr. Louis, he has something to say, because also he has this expertise, energy.
Okay, I'm not coming as an expert in energy, though I have some background in the practical, but it's kind of an advice. So based on our presentation, the project is good, but again, though you use data, it's kind of a simulation than actually reality on the ground. Maybe your challenge is based on this advice. I'm not sure if you will first focus on tangible things or you first focus finishing your studies. That's a trade-off. So I saw that you are assigned to India Institute of Technology. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, so you are doing your studies. First of all, my advice could be focus on your studies, but keeping in mind that you can implement this project. Number two is think about how also involving a team or building a team having the kind of socio-economic aspects. So in the advice, because while presenting to REG, while presenting to other public institutions, even the private sector, they will ask you economic parameters, social and so on. So build your team while you're doing also your studies, and then also develop like a project proposal for funding, because you can't also implement this. The first step is to have a prototype which you can present to REG or other partner, but having this prototype, you need funds. So my suggestion could be, though you are focusing on the studies, think about how you can build a team, how you can develop a proposal and search for funding. And then this team should be multidisciplinary, having socioeconomic, policy aspect and so on, climate aspect. In that case, you can achieve this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Louis. And is working at NSST. So they have many funds, project funds. So, and I think what you are doing is very interesting. So you can, if they release a call, please make sure that you have applied. Okay, thank you. I think if there is no other comment, we can just close our session. I'm sorry that we took a lot of time, but thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. The session was very, very interesting, even though it was in the afternoon, but I think you get a lot of information and insightful presentation. Now, the time is not on our side. For today's program, we left with one presentation, but before having this presentation, there is a coffee break outside, 15 minutes. Can we reduce to 10? 10 minutes. Or you can bring it here, while also